Perfect. After this, what's really neat is Mr. Peterburs had written a book of some of his adventures, and he'll be here to talk about his book, sell some of his books, maybe sign a couple if we can get him to do so. Mr. Peterburs is one of the pilots that flew one of my all-time favorite aircraft in history, which is a P-51 Mustang. And so, Mr. Peterburs, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you started when you got into World War II?
Well, on the 7th of December, 1941, I was at the Salvatorian Seminary in St. Nathan's, Wisconsin, working hard at studies for the priesthood. And when I heard that Pearl Harbor was struck, I immediately knew I'd be leaving the seminary and entering the armed service in some capacity. So I finished that term, and then on my 18th birthday, 25th of November, 1942, I took a competitive examination for an aviation cadet position in the United States Army Air Corps. I passed the exam and started my rigorous year and a half training to become a pilot. I flew the Stearman, the aircraft that you saw outside, and I had never thought of flying before. I had a vocation to become a priest. I only involvement with airplanes was I saw them flying over, but that's about it. So I arrived at Douglas, Georgia. I had a little field and started flying the PT-17, and in 6 hours I soloed and started and was in intense training for another 65 hours. From there, I went through the normal training of BT-13 and then the AT-6, the other aircraft you saw out there. I graduated on the 15th of April of 1944 at 19 years old, a second lieutenant fighter pilot. After graduation, I took about 3 or 4 months of P-40 transitioning and training, combat training before going overseas. And on the 1st of November of 1944, I left New York on the Ile-de-France converted troop ship and landed in Scotland at about the 6th of November. Then from there, I went down to Kingscliff, England, about 90 miles north of London, and joined the 20th Fighter Group, the 55th Fighter Squadron. Is the sound going okay?
What's that?
Is the sound going okay?
Yeah, it sounds
okay. My earplugs sometimes fall up my speech. But anyway, I ended up at the 20th Fighter Group, in the 55th Fighter Squadron, and lo and behold, they had P-51s there, which I had never seen before, but having flown the P-40, it was a simple method, job of transitioning into the P-51. After about 15 hours in the P-51, I started flying combat. My first combat mission was on the 1st of December, the 12th of December of 1944, and it was barely escort mission to targets in northern Germany. I flew 49 combat missions, 48 following the first one, and on the 10th of April, 1945, I was on my last mission that I didn't know I was on, and we were escorting some 450 P-17s to targets in the Oranienburg area. There were some 250 P-51s escorting these aircraft. I was flying high cover at about 30,000 feet. The bombers were at about 25,000 feet.
think if you hold the microphone up here,
Okay.
then you might be able to.
All right. How's that? Better? Oh, okay. Should I start over? No.
That was good.
Okay. Now here comes the important parts, really. I'm flying at about 30,000 feet, and the bombers are approaching Oranienburg, just north of Berlin, and they toggled their bombs and were hit by a swarm of Me-262s, the German jet. And I saw one jet, a 262, and he just blew up a B-17. And I had rolled over as soon as I saw him and started after him. And as I pulled into his 6 o'clock position, I started, within range, I started firing. And he just blew up his second B-17. And almost simultaneously, I was hitting him in the left wing, and his left engine started on fire and smoking. And he rolled over and started to dive down to the deck. Well, they were on, like you've been told, 100 miles an hour faster than the P-51. And I was, the only reason I was able to get them the way I did is because I had the 5,000 feet altitude, and gravity helped me bring my speed up to equivalent to his. But now I was starting to, he was diving and putting more power to his aircraft, so he was starting to outrun me, and when we got down to about 3,000 feet, he disappeared into a bank of low clouds, and he was burning, his left engine was burning, and I said I wasn't going to follow him into the clouds, so I broke it off and saw an airfield just loaded with German aircraft and started strafing it. Well, the German airfields were very heavily defended, and it was extremely problematic that you were going to get hit if you made too many passes. And the adage for the fighter pilot would be one pass and haul ass. And I did not follow the rule. And I made about 5 passes, and I destroyed 5 aircraft on the ground and set a hangar on fire. And as I was coming into my last hit on a FW-200, a Condor, which is a 4-engine aircraft, and I felt a thud, and then I blew the aircraft, and then I felt another thud, and I started getting oil on the windscreen, and I made it up to about 10,000 feet. Now, this was in the Oranienburg area, which is close to Berlin, and the Russians were fighting in Berlin, and our forces, the American forces, were fighting in Magdeburg, about 80 miles away. So I had to make the decision whether or not to go east to the Russians or west to the U.S. forces. And I decided to go west to Magdeburg. It was about 80 miles away. And my aircraft was, I could get a little something out of the engine, but it was losing altitude very slowly. And by the time I got to a little town just east of Magdeburg, I was down to 1,000 feet, and I knew that I wasn't going to make it to Magdeburg, and I'd have to bail out. So I unstrapped and started to bail out, and I saw an FW-190 headed towards me in my 3 o'clock position. And so I turned into him, and just about simultaneously as I turned in and rolled out, he fired his rockets and guns and missed me, and I was burning on the right side pretty bad. And so he just went on and left me. He figured I was gone anyway. So by this time, I'm down to 500 feet. So I think, oh boy, I got to belly this thing in. I'm too low to bail out. And then I remember this is all milliseconds going on in your head, and you're trying to figure out what to do next. And anyway, remember that I unstrapped and I would kill myself belting it in because I wasn't strapped into the aircraft. So I went out the side of the aircraft at about 350 feet, and you're supposed to go out to the right side because the torque would throw you away from the aircraft. Go out the left side, it throws you into the aircraft. I went out to the left side and it threw me into the aircraft, and I hit the horizontal stabilizer with my right knee, pulled the ripcord, and chute opened, and I hit the ground hard. And so my legs are pretty banged up and my back is a little hurt, but I still had to get up and see where I am and see what my situation is. And I got up and looked, and I was in the middle of a farmer's field, acres and acres of the farmland. And about 50 yards away, there was a group of about 15 Germans who were working out in the fields, started to run towards me with the intent of doing me in. And so I thought, well, this is it. And they were about 20 yards away, and I heard a noise behind me, and a motorcycle come tearing up with a Luftwaffe sergeant on, and he hopped off the motorcycle, pulled out his Luger, shot in the air, and said, told the farmers that I'm his prisoner and to stay away. So anyway, I was captured and interned at the airport, and then later shipped off to a POW camp, which was at Stalag 8, which was about an hour away from Berg, where I had bailed out and been captured. So I get to this camp, and it was a British POW camp, and there was about 8,000 prisoners, and they had already started retreating, evacuating that camp and headed towards the east. And about 100 British POWs were still left. So we were all rousted out, and we went on a march back to Berlin. Berlin was about probably 50, 60 miles away from where we were. And we were on the march for about 4 days, and got to Berlin, and I was interned at Luckenwalde, Stalag 3, which was a Russian POW camp that had all Russians prisoners. So I was there for about 4 or 5 days, and I decided to escape. And I escaped, and I headed towards Berlin to meet up with the Russians. And as I was walking towards Berlin in the ditch of a dirt road, I heard a rumbling coming down, and I looked up, and it was a Russian T-34 group of Russian patrol or unit. And I come out in some way, I don't know how, I communicated with them. I was able to communicate, and they were able to let me know that they were headed towards Wittenberg on the Elbe by way of Jitterbug. And the lieutenant in charge of the patrol gave me a rifle, said, hop on. I hopped on the tank, and we started in, and I fought with the Russians from Berlin to Wittenberg on the Elbe. And there I was retrieved by American forces, and American forces were on patrol. They came across to meet the Russians. They retrieved me, and I was on with them on mop-up operations until they got back to their base at Halle. At Halle, I was with them a couple days, and I got tired of that, and I said, well, I'm going to take off, and I took off, and I started back towards the west, and now I'm 20 years old, and at the time, and I was pretty footloose and fancy-free sort of thing, and so I come across this grass field that had a C-47 on it, and outside the C-7, the C-47 was a group of about 15 people, men, and striped suits and emaciated, just absolutely Walking Dead, completely. It's indescribable. And I went up to the two pilots, pilot and co-pilot, lieutenants, asked what was going on, and they said, "Oh, they're taking these political prisoners back to France." They were in a POW camp, and of course they knew nothing about the Holocaust. I knew nothing about the Holocaust. We didn't know anything like that was going on. So I said, "Can I bum a ride?" So he was going to Paris. What's better than that? So they said, "Okay, hop on." And the whole trip back, there was no communications. I couldn't carry on a conversation with the other passengers, and they were just in a state of shock. All of the emotions and the things that a human being experiences, not knowing after suffering such cruelty, and then being given food and thinking that possibly there's life, and it was a horrible experience, but a memorable one. And then we got to Paris, and I got stamped and deloused and put under control, and now I'm a POW, repatriated POW, and I'm headed back to the States. So I'm on the last convoy out of Europe and land in New York on the 1st of June, and hurry up and get home to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where my fiancée Josephine, who I named my aircraft after, was eagerly waiting my return so we could get married. And we're in the process of doing all the paperwork for marriage. And I find out during the process that I had to get my mom's permission to get married because I hadn't turned 21 yet. So with mutual understanding, we had talked it over with Josephine and about what our future would be. We're both 20 years old. We're getting married. What do I do? Do I get out and go to college and stuff, or do I stay in the service? And we both decided that it would be a good deal to stay in. So I stayed in and ended up doing service in Korea and Vietnam and the Cold War with 36 years and 5 months of active service. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Peterburs. If you're okay with it, are you good with a couple questions? And then after that, then we'll take the table, we'll move it down there, and you can, if anyone wants to come up after, is it okay to ask? Okay, great. So have to keep in mind that 262 jets were quite a sight to see in World War II. These fighter pilots, most of them, and I can't speak for Mr. Peterburs, but they were really a legend, and these propless aircraft that swing by these bombers at such speed, to be able to shoot down one take luck and expertise at the same time. And so let's take a couple questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up in about 10 minutes or so. Yes, sir.
I can't. Okay. I shot down Oh, I probably left out one of the most important parts of the whole story. Anyway, I shot him down on the 10th of April, and then within about 15, 20 minutes after I shot him down, I had to bail out over Berg. But anyway, when I saw him go into the clouds, he was burning, but I didn't see him crash or anything, so I didn't claim him as a kill or anything. And that went on for over 60 years. And in 1996, through a long series of, believe it or not, sorts of contacts, Walter Schuck, Oberleutnant Walter Schuck, is the pilot I shot down. He had 198 kills in the ME-109 and 8 kills in the ME-262 with its 37 millimeter cannon shell, which is another thing that they fired, which was extremely dangerous. Well, the German and European researchers had been spending, ever since the war, they've been trying to figure out who shot Walter Schuck. He was still alive, and they wanted to know who shot him down, and nothing, they could correlate anything. Well, in 2002, I received an email from Christer Bergström, a prolific Swedish historian and author, who is doing Walter Schuck's autobiography. And he said, I understand that you wrote down your summary of your last mission right after it happened. I mean, when I got home and all that. I said, yeah. He said, would you email it to me? I said, yeah, and I sent it to him. 3 days later, I got an email back. He said, 100% sure you're the one that shot down Walter Schuck. So how can you be 100% sure? He said, well, the details of your narrative are exactly perfect match of Walter's. I said, well, even that may be 95%, but fog of war and all that sort of stuff. He said, no. He said, because Walter Schuck during that mission shot down 4 B-17s. He shot down 2 in a row in a box before he hit your box. Then he hit your box, and you describe how he shot down 2 other B-17s and how you got him. He said, well, Walter Schuck is the only one that shot down 2 B-17s. In fact, he did 4 B-17s in a row on that mission. So Walter Schuck knows that I shot him down, and I know that I shot him down, and who cares about the rest of it? And we became, in 18th of May of 2005, we met in Vista, California on the 18th of May of 2005 at Vista, California, and became close friends. And for the next 10 years, we did shows like this together and over Europe as well as in the States.
How did you first feel when you sat in a P-51 Mustang?
Oh, that's a good question. So, how does it feel like?
How did you feel?
Okay. Okay, how did I feel like when I first started flying a P-51?
Yeah.
It felt like I was a knight and I was putting on my shining armor. The P-51 was a beautiful aircraft, and when I started flying it, I could tell that it just sensed the movements I had, and sometimes I thought maybe it was even thinking ahead of me. But in any event, it was very compatible with my character anyway. And then I like to sort of compare it to, and of course you wouldn't understand, but some of the older people will understand. I compare it to driving a stick shift. And when you're driving, those of you who drive strict six know that when you're driving, you don't even think of what gear you're putting in. You know, you hear the engine, and you know the engine is and you need to go higher. You have to go lower, and then you don't even remember what you're doing. You automatically do things. Well, that's how I flew the P-51 and I really enjoyed it. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
I want to ask you two things. First, how much intelligence did you have about the M262, ME-262, before you went up on that 49th mission? And the second question I have is, has anyone nominated you for the Medal of Honor?
Okay, as far as the learning about the 262, the fact 262s were in operation when I arrived. The day I arrived, one of the pilots in our unit had an encounter with the 262, and he and another pilot from another group both simultaneously attacked it, and the 262 went into a spin, and neither one of them fired a shot, but they each got credit for a half of 262. But we knew that number one, the 262 was not a dogfighting aircraft. The 51 would outmaneuver them, and it would be ridiculous for them to even try to dogfight with, because we were more maneuverable. So there are the only two ways we were briefed that you could really get them, and that would be on takeoff and landing. And the other way was to some way to equalize the speed, and you do that with gravity and altitude advantage, and or surprise when they're going slow. That would be another way. So I got them on the latter part. I was doing 420 miles an hour airspeed, indicated airspeed at 20,000 feet, which equates to 550 some odd miles an hour. And it's almost hitting compressibility. I could feel the controls starting to give me some problems. Okay?
They're asking about the medal.
I mean, I won't even, that is, I was not in the war for medals. I was in the war to do my duty as the thousands of others who did not come back, and they did the ultimate. No, I was not nominated. I really wouldn't want to be nominated for any kind of an award for shooting down Walter. Walter and I would be at a gathering like this, and people would ask, what did you think about, did you have any animosity and stuff? And Walter was defending his homeland. And I was defending the bombers. And we both did a damn good job at what we were doing. So, and we particularly on that mission.
Just a quick question. Obviously, you continued on in your career, 36 years. So you were in Korea and Vietnam. What other aircraft did you fly? Did you fly in Korea and Vietnam?
Yes, I flew in Korea, the F-51, the worst aircraft in the inventory for the job we were given. We was close air support, dropping bombs, napalm, rockets, and the P-51 was vulnerable to a 22. You get a hit in that coolant and you're gone. That's it. And my battle damage was 2 to 3 times as much that I brought home battle damage in Korea than I was in World War II. And it was a dangerous, and I got some severe hits and wounds in Korea flying. I flew 76 missions in Korea in the F-51.
How about Vietnam?
In Vietnam, by that time, I'd decided back after I got back from Korea, I decided there was no future in the Air Force and flying. And I should transition to command and control because that was the big thing that was coming up. So from 1955 on, I was primarily in command and control. However, I did check out in the F-80, the first American jet, and then I got a considerable time in the T-33 in my capacity as commander and stuff of various units. And so I've got about 2,000 hours of jet time in the F-80 and the T-33. And the only other combat was only P-51s. I've got 125 missions in the P-51 with 407 hours of combat time.
We'll take one more question. One more. Rob, it's up.
What was it like to learn about the Holocaust? And what was it like to realize that the people that you were fighting against were the people in that regime?
Well, it was sometime after that. There was not much publicity right after World War II about the Holocaust. There were the newsreels that came out with Eisenhower visiting the camps, and the material was gathering about how bad it was. And as far as the routine is, I mean, we knew that the Nazis were evil people. I mean, it was just not only the Holocaust, but everything they did was cruel and dictatorial. And so I could say that it all didn't come to me just like all of a sudden a shock. It finally built in, and over the years, and I'm still learning things about it. So that's the best I could answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Peterburs. Mr. Copley?
Joe, sit down, please. Sit down. So you are a humble man. You don't ask for anything. You didn't ask for this, but you've previously been recorded in the Congressional Medal of Honor for turning 100 and also for being a POW. I thought that it was important that you be recognized for what you did, shooting down Walter Schuck, and also for your other accomplishments. I'm not going to read it to you. I took it from your bio. I just wanted this to be part of the congressional record. And I have two questions, if I may, Rob. Can I? And Sabrina, if you'd take that home, I brought it here, and you could lighten my luggage. Thank you. Two questions. So Joe Peterburs has been with Rob Collins 262 in 2004. I just wonder if you people think he should be reunited with that 262. We couldn't get it. We couldn't get that. We couldn't get that here, but it could come to Oshkosh next year, and you could come back to Oshkosh to be with it. You asked me for two things. You said, could I speak about Walter? I think you've done that today. The other thing you asked me for was, could you sit in the 262? You haven't yet, have you? Oh, you have? Oh, you have not? Rob, he has not sat in the 262. Well, if you brought it to Oshkosh, I know that could happen. Rob, other director, I leave it to you guys. Thanks, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Peterburs.
Thank you.